New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring. And hello again, dear ones. Dr. Robert with you over here.
No, hey, BRZ right here.
There we go.
All right. Internet was playing a little trick on me.
we got a little bit of a lag delay going on there, folks. That happens sometimes. Welcome to New Thought today for July 1st, 2025. We are officially halfway through the year, and oh my gosh, wowie, what a first 6 months of the year it has been. Yes. But Z and I, we were reflecting a little bit before the show that we've had some pretty wild people and some pretty amazing conversations on this program in the first 6 months of this year already, from Dr. Tracy Brown to Reverend David Alexander, Jesse Jennings, Deborah Johnson, David Bruner, names that we don't have all the time. And some of our favorites like Raymond Anderson, Michelle Wadley, Dr. Bill Marcioni. It's been a really good first half of the year in that regard, and I'm really looking forward to what the future holds, what the rest of the year holds, and that's why it's cool, Z, that we get a chance. It hasn't been just you and I on this show in a while, so it's nice when we get a chance, just you and I, to connect and share on some of these topics and get a chance to talk about all that we've done here.
Yeah. And I think, one of the key things is, this program and in its inception was to look at and have the conversation about New Thought metaphysics approach to life. And what's new? What are we transforming into? We said the first 6 months have been very interesting, all kinds of things in all arenas. You name one, something's happening. How do we have this as a thought, a way of life that generates abundance in a lot of different ways? How do we do that? How do we have that conversation? That's why you always hear Rev Briz always saying, if there's anyone in the audience that wants to come on, if they got an idea, if they got a practice or a program that is New Thought oriented and it's looking to change and make that world that works for all, then we have a link. You can go in, find a space on the calendar, book something in there. We'll send you, boom, and it'll happen. That's what this is for. This is a community conversation on New Thought, metaphysics, ancient wisdom.
Yeah, beautifully. Well said. And that was always our intention from the very beginning when we started to have an open dialogue, an open conversation of where we are now and where we're going. I think most of our viewers and most of our guests have a sense of where we've come from. And that's well and good. And, you don't never forget your history. And we've got to, we are the ones that are charting the future course, I think, here. And we say that a lot. So Z, thank you for sharing the invitation, folks. Join us, info@ntmedia.org. If you'd like to be a guest or like to host a show on the network, but if you'd like to be a guest on this program, send us an email, info@ntmedia.org. We'd love to hear from you. Very much so. All right. So, and that kind of leads us to the question we had where that you and I started with here a little while ago, Z. How do we
Right.
get more people to live this philosophy, to not just understand it, but to have it be the guiding principles, if you will, or the guiding force, the guiding activities of our day, of our lives. I think it's important. It's imperative to creating a world that works for all. And are we doing it?
And I think we have to become this teaching. We've heard this term, a way of life. When something is a way of life, you don't even think about it unless you're out of sorts. Now, if you're out of sorts, you think about it. How many times today have you thought about breathing? None. It's a way of life. It is the component that makes it move. And when we can begin to take these teachings and practice them so that they become like that, then we look at the martial artists who come from a very spiritual system. When we go back to Kung Fu, which is kind of, all of it, it was based on spiritual practice first. And then all of the feats that they can do came second. And that's where we are now, I think.
So what I'm hearing is more practice, deeper practice, more committed practice.
Deeper. It's like that saying, we have to be the message. We have to be the message. And that means, we have to start with that love energy, as some people call it, that vibrating energy that has degrees. And the more we can sit in that, regardless of circumstances, and create that aura, that energy, that vibration, then we'll be able to maneuver in an environment based on the give and flow of the universe.
Mm-hmm.
If you try to hold your breath, pretty soon it's going to say, I need air.
Yeah, exactly. I was on a mentoring call with one of my mentors about 2 weeks ago now, maybe, and in that call, one of the things he said is, whatever your choice, whatever your decision, don't lose sight that it really is all about the message. It isn't necessarily about the packaging. It isn't necessarily about who thinks they control the message, or who thinks they own the message, or who thinks that they can tell you how to share the message or teach the message. Never lose sight that it's all about the message. And for me, the message of New Thought is that with practice, not just because of an intellectual knowledge, but with practice, we can control the conditions of our lives.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm in this physical comparison mode today. However, when you go look at martial arts masters, I don't care what they study, right?
Mm-hmm.
When they are in tune and they've been practicing and doing their thing, they can do some amazing things. Same thing with yogis and people who've understood this love energy that is the give and flow of life, and that we have to begin to read that. And I can't give you what I don't have myself. So if I'm not at peace, how am I going to give you peace? I don't care how many words I give you. There has to be this connection that allows us to learn the energy flow and go through the battles and go through the ups and downs. And then we find that flow of life, and then it becomes a way of life. And that's what New Thought was created to be, because it was based off the ancient mystery systems of how do I get in tune with the universe, the stars, the growing seasons, and how do I move and operate in that natural space?
Mm. There, you lead me to a question that I've been asking recently. How do we? Is it a divine ideal, or just some fanciful concept to bring back, and even the language is wrong here, but to launch or nurture or envision a new form of mystery school that is
Without a doubt.
fully invested through new thought principles?
Without a doubt, because the principles that they started with is the principles we got, the ancient systems. And now the challenge is that, okay, everybody, I mean, to understand that from my perspective, everybody has to have some level of a holistic view of things and how things work, right? If I get too far down in the weeds and all the details and I have no vision of where I'm going, yeah, something's getting done, but is it on purpose? Or the vice versa? I see everything, but I'm not doing any work. That vision is never going to materialize. So how do we, that's where that pull is, I think. And to have a mystery system means that, grandma used to say, experience is the best teacher. The only way you gonna understand that fire burns when mama tell you don't touch the stove is when you touch that stove.
It's when you touch that stove. Exactly.
And
So,
now mama don't even have to say, she don't even have to say hot. She just look at the stove and you say hot, mommy, right? Yeah, hot.
exactly. That only takes once.
Yeah.
Although you never know. Sometimes you need the reminder. I was at a luncheon on Sunday at someone's house, and somebody else was like, "Smells kind of funny." And somebody looked at there's a little toaster oven on the counter, and rather than recognize that smells a little funny, and I might see a little glow in there, I went and touched the top of it to see if it was hot or not, and it was hot. That's why I said, hey, you might want to take that plastic thing of muffins off the top of the toaster up in there. I think I know what we're starting to smell here. So we need the reminders in our lives, but more importantly, what we're talking about here, folks, if you're just kind of tuning in and joining us, just finding us here this afternoon, it's this principle of not only how do I live this, but really, and I think for many people still, it's what barriers am I putting in my own way? Where am I? How am I holding myself back? Because I know so many intelligent people that understand this philosophy, and yet in many ways fail to demonstrate the full potential of this philosophy. So what's holding us back, Z?
And well, as several good books, and this is key. Without a vision, the people will perish.
Yes.
Because I cannot concentrate my energy enough in one direction, whether it's individual or collectively, to make something happen. I love, one of the principles of New Thought is that the world is made of energy, which is light, which is sound, which is feeling, right? And so, as we say, life is eternal and it takes on these various shapes of energy. When we can begin to take that, because all of the creations, a lot of them, everything was created by thought. There's nothing that we have, whether it's a car or this computer, that someone didn't think of it in their head first, and it went from invisible to visible. Right. That's the process. Whoever came up with the electrolyte, whoever came up with the steam engine, whoever built the pyramids, somebody had to visualize that and then say, what is the practice? I got to have a purpose, a vision, a meaning of it. And then what is the practice that I need to do to make that in reality? That's what this teaching is. And, we've used it individually to do something for self, which is you got to start with self because I got to be able to demonstrate.
Yep.
But then now it's about how do I share? Because when two or more are gathered, you got more power. God is in the center. The divine is there. And that's what we got to, that's what we got to get people to feel.
You've got some great reminders in there, because it is where two or more are gathered, and yet each has to be in their own way healthy, healed, prepared, ready for the task before us. And
Yes, sir.
And we need this to be such a way of life that it isn't the woo woo any longer. We're the force made manifest at that moment.
Yes.
At that point.
Yes. And and now as you say that, it reminds me of the story where the guy's in the symphony, and it's like a 2-hour symphony, and he got one hit at the end on the cymbal, but he's standing there strong the whole hour and a half or whatever it is in the symphony, just waiting for his turn or her turn. And when it happens, boom. That's how we have to look at everything. I may not be the key player in this symphony or this part of this thing. Maybe that's my next time, right? Next week, next month, next project. And we have to be able to have that feeling, that give and take, and that respect to know that and to understand that, which means if I don't know myself, there's no way for me to know anybody else. I got to be honest with me and so forth.
Yep. And then we work it. We work it. We keep working it, and we work it together, and we work it individually, and we work it in community, and we work it here, and we work it there, and we keep ourselves. I want to say
tuned in, turned on.
There we go. Yeah. Exactly. And tuned in, and that's another thing that I always want us to be. I want this program to be. I want our network to be a place where people can come and get turned on and tune in to what's going on, and find avenues and ways to look at and experience this new thought philosophy a whole lot more and a whole lot better. And that's the perfect reminder that we've got something fun coming up in the near future, Z. We talked about this last year, and it was so much fun, and this is a great example of it, because you and I are not in charge of anything other than showing up and bringing our real selves to the party, which is nice. Neither of us are actually in charge of anything. Last year was called New Thought in the Desert. This year it's being called Linked in Spirit. We're going to be, both Reverend Elzia and I will be speaking along with this look at this cast of characters. What an amazing lineup of speakers. And Gary Lynn Floyd, September 12th through the 14th in Las Vegas, Nevada at the Center for Spiritual Living, Las Vegas CSL. And you can learn more about that at Las Vegas CSL.
Yeah. And it's the perfect time of year, because right now it's heating up in Vegas.
Oh, yeah. Exactly.
So it's perfect time. Put it on the calendar.
This is right now is the time of the year where your tires in the road become one. If you're trying to drive around Vegas, the asphalt just melts your tires right into a state of oneness. But by September, it turns nice. It's not too cool. It's very nice. We'll have a good time. But the important part, folks, right, is again, come be a part of something where we can talk about and learn from each other and be in each other's companies, because that's where, in my 20 years in this philosophy, that's where the best ideas come from, is when we're hanging out, letting spirit flow through, rather than trying to control what we're saying or where we're going with something.
Yeah. Because, that's when it works. You think about the communities, as we said earlier, the communities that are creating things, they working together, and it's happening, and there's a place for everybody, right? And so we have to learn, as my favorite song, Kenny Rogers, know when to hold 'em and know when to fold 'em. We have to know when to step up and when to step back, and when to face a conflict and when not. This teaching is about, how do I live an authentic life? We hear that word authentic all the time, but that means, guess what? Sometimes I'm mad.
Yeah.
Sometimes you mad for whatever reason, right? And for me to act like I'm not, I could be mad because I wanted to reach a goal and I didn't do it. And so I'm down on myself because what? I didn't practice. Or I changed my mind and I got a new goal. And that's okay. I bless it and I go another way. But we have to have that kind of honest relationship with ourselves and with others. And it's hard as I don't know what.
Right.
But we have, if you want to be in the dance, you got to figure it out. Think about your first junior high school dance.
No, it's not that. I'm coming up on my 40th anniversary, my 40th reunion this fall. I don't want to think about the junior high dance. Thanks anyway.
That'd be great.
But I am with you, right? We have to, we've got to figure it out, and that comes in both on the individual level, but also at that level of the community. We figure it out for ourselves, but not by ourselves. We figure it out within ourselves, but we don't have to go it alone to get there. And events like these and others, anywhere you can get to, that gives you an opportunity to truly process in through what's happening, to talk it out, to explore, to envision, to be in any of our primary, but to be in spiritual practice together, to be in spiritual community together.
Yeah. That's it. I think, because once that happens, I think, if you plant a seed, if it ain't raining, it ain't growing. But as soon as it starts raining, a little moisture comes around, you start seeing the sprouts. It don't even have to be a good rain. It could just be heavy dew in the morning. There is a 14 billion year old scripture called the universe that has gone from who knows what. There's debate over how it started, but we know it. We know there's a bunch of rocks in the beginning and fire in the beginning, and look at it now. This thing called life. So we have to get back in touch with that energy, because at one time, now we say we're stardust, right? That was Hawkins' thing, and that we're stardust. I think it was Hawkins.
Yeah.
But at one time we were rock. We were rock things when we go back far enough. And we have to really begin. New Thought Metaphysics deals with this idea of evolution of life, rites of passage. In a lot of indigenous communities, there are rites of passages for the preborn, all the way to those who've gone into ancestry. It's not venerating, it's not worshiping, it's the understanding that energy never changes. And now I can begin to learn to do something else with the energy, take it from light to sound.
Yeah. That is something that I think as a whole society is definitely lacking in, is missing currently. And we've had Reverend Eamon Duffy on the program here with New Thought Men's Community, and he's spoken of that with us numerous times. And I know that's something that he himself is quite passionate about, is how do we bring back that sense of rites, not just rites of passage, yes, and the ceremonial piece that goes with it. Not just okay, yep, you're old enough. Here's a 6-pack of condoms. Good luck there, son, or whatever. Right? Any of the
point is, it's the process is the process, but the program is the initiation, right? How do we initiate people, and what the ancient ones did? How did we initiate people into another level of consciousness because of whatever the reason is? Right? That it might not be because of age, it might be because of something else, or it might not be because of why. But at some point, we have to, if consciousness is evolutionary, we have to be initiated into one way of using it, thinking and experience it, to another, so that we continue this eternal journey.
Yep. Now,
and that's what the rites of passage do. How do I become a individual? How do I become a member of the community? How do I become a member of the world?
Yeah. Folks, I want to keep exploring this topic, but we do need to let some of our sponsors say hello and share just a little bit more about what we're doing here with New Thought Media Network. But we're going to be back in just a moment with a bit more here on New Thought Media Network on the New Thought Today show, and share with you just a bit more. I like this. I want to keep going with this one, how the power of our initiations. And I think it's leading to what we're experiencing in the world right now. So stay with us, stay tuned. We'll be back right after this. Please help us say thank you to our organizational sponsors, including the Hefferland Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake, Unity Kitchener, Unity Spiritual Center Ottawa, Om Center for Spiritual Living, Satya Center, Begin Within Ministries, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and the Center for Spiritual Living Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. Thank you for being part of the New Thought Media Network. Please like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network, positively inspiring. And we're back with more of New Thought Today here on the New Thought Media Network. If you're just joining us, my dear friend and co-host Reverend Elzia, Sekou, and I have been having a great conversation, and we left off looking at part of how the initiations of our lives are so very important. And one of the things you said, Reverend Elzia, that struck me was that it's the rite of passage to a new level of consciousness, to a new understanding. And what we know about consciousness is, as we raise and increase our consciousness around any topic, we demonstrate that. We demonstrate that new understanding, that new belief pattern. And recently, one of our colleagues mentioned the concept. We were talking about what was happening in Los Angeles with protests, and how one side likes to frame it as a riot and another side likes to frame it as a protest. And what he was sharing was that at their community, they're looking at this from a perspective of an uprising. It's an uprising in consciousness that is demonstrating itself in the physical form. And one of the things that I have noticed myself is that, and this isn't political by any means, But what I've noticed is over the last couple of decades, at least, the uprising has become increasingly more peaceful in its approach to how we bring forward nonviolent change. What we are rising up against, if you will, or what we are rising up in face of, seems to have been getting more aggressive and more violent in its approach. And I'm not, and I don't want to try to nitpick specific events, but that feels like the general overall is our initiation is the uprising. The event is the uprising, and the call is to bring a more peaceful and a more nonviolent consciousness to the events of our day.
Yeah, and we have to. I think I'm still in a concept from Alan Watts, my main man. We have to continue to look at life in oscillation, right? We have to look at oscillation. So that means there are. Alan Watts made a statement about how do we find a balance between violence, if you will, to make it start, and non-violence. He says it's situational. It's a part of the whole. He said right now in our bodies, white blood cells are waging war against anything that's foreign to this body that will take it down. It's at war. It becomes a problem when it goes beyond its bounds. But as long as it does what it needs to do when it does it, I'm still kicking. The same concept. We're dealing with the 14 billion year old scripture. And so that's how we have to begin to activate it. Because as the poem goes, I'd rather see a sermon than to hear one any day. I'd rather one to walk with me than just to show the way. The eye is a better pupil and more willing than the ear. Advice may be misleading, but examples are always clear. That's what we're doing. That's what we're trying to set the framework for. And then you got to figure out, to build a house, I need carpenters and electricians and plumbers. I don't want my electrician dealing with my plumbing at all.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And vice versa. And a few weeks back, Reverend Galen McDowell was here on the program, and he spoke to this in the New Thought Light, in a New Thought framework, to this idea that we need teachers and we need preachers, and they don't need to be exactly the same person in every occasion. And we need theologians, and we need those that hold down the rituals, and we need those that are going to go and march in the streets, and we need those that are going to sit on the sidelines and pray for those marching on the street, in the streets. And that we need all of these various aspects of what the New Thought movement is. I keep coming back to this phrase of we're here to make the movement move. We don't need any more sitting around, right? We need to move.
You got to do, yeah. I mean, what good is it to me to have a gigantic diamond-crusted bottle of water, and I'm thirsty and I don't drink the water? I mean, that's how I look at it in my mind, self-included, right? Because we all are a transforming caterpillar to a butterfly. And when I'm cooking, I'm cooking. When I ain't cooking, then it ain't cooking. And that's what this, when we look at our teaching, it is, most people always say, well, the Science Mind textbook is so intellectual. It's so, it's so heady. And yes, it is. It is, in my opinion, it's designed to create that question. And then from there, you let it all simmer out. And then how do I take these words and begin to practice? But it is, Betty, because I got to have a vision. If I'm going to heal something, I need to have a vision of what the healing process is and what the heck I'm trying to heal. Not in a way that restricts my thinking, but in a terms of energetic understanding. I got to know what that means.
Yep. You just caught me thinking of Reverend Raymond now, because our dear friend Reverend Dr. Raymond Anderson, he loves to talk about, if we are metaphysicians, then we should act like physicians. And if somebody comes to us and says, Doc, I'm sick, well, I got to know what are the symptoms? What are you feeling? What's not right? What's going on? If you just keep going, no, Doc, just heal me of everything. I can't. What the heck am I going to do? We're in a place, I believe, where countless people have given their heart, their love, their hands, their money, their souls for this philosophy, to move these principles and practices forward. And we've always been an evolving type of teaching, and therefore it is always going to be an evolutionary process of how we understand these principles and how we demonstrate them, how we practice them. Some of our colleagues like to hold on to the past a little too tightly sometimes, and that's nothing wrong with anchoring our history, but let's not get in the way of the forward progress in the process.
Yeah, well, because I think we got it a little twisted. In my mind, my understanding of the system. So when we start looking at the past, right, repeatable, we're looking at principle.
Right.
When we're looking at law, that's why we got, principles and laws. This whole thing about love and law. Love is a principle, it's a vibration, but a little different from a law. But when we understand that, now we can operate. I can look back to a principle. There are many different ways to get electricity. You can get thermal, you can get turbine, you can get hydro, you can get fusion, which is the latest thing they're talking about now because of all the power and energy it's going to take to run this AI, right? So nuclear power again. But it's the principle that they took to get all these things. So it's the same. We're in a new time, new space. What principle for this type of environment, this condition, this whatever, do I need to go and study, learn, understand, and extract a law out of it that applies to right now? And that's what Ernest said in the very first chapter of the book, very first sentence. I look forward to the day when science and spirituality walk hand in hand, from the visible to the invisible. But from the ancient teachings, we know as above, so below, as below, so above. There's the reverse of that as well. How do I bring it out of the invisible into the physical?
Yeah.
It's a holistic teaching. There's a holistic way of living. We've gotten stuck on these polarities and fighting for a polarity when you can't even see but 180 degrees of it, maybe.
Yep. Exactly. Well, and that's it is ultimately what I'm hearing from you here again is this principle of the both and. We have to be both the both and. Both, how do I bring the divine into the human experience, but also how do I let my human experience guide, influence, shine light, call me to a deeper experience of the divine, and not to try to cloud the divine with not to try to say my God's limited because this is what's going on, but to say this is what I don't understand and allow the light to be shown upon it. The both and journey in both directions.
Yeah. Well, and there's something we talk about often on this show is the spiral. Is that a lot of Ken Wilber done great work on the spiral dynamics, right? Because we understand from the science that there's no such thing really as a circle. It's a spiral. Even if it's 1 millimeter ahead of the previous circle, because of the gravity and everything, we live on a spiral. And so when I get back to point 0 as spiral cycle 1 or 2, the energy, the vibration, same vantage point is different now, right? If I'm standing on the ground or I stand on a ladder now that's 5 feet, I got a different vantage point. I'm at the same place, but my understanding is different, my vantage point. And that's how life is. And that's what this evolutionary process of onward and upward and evolving into something else, we have to understand that. So I'm gonna make mistakes or whatever. I'm gonna get back here and feel like I was stuck at point 2. I feel stuck right now at point 2, although I'm way up here on cycle 10. How do I work through the energy?
Yep. That is one of the great aspects that I love of New Thought, is that no matter where you may be, or as far, and I've spoken to this before, as that point of, once you know this stuff, you can't forget it. Some people try, and they try to stick their head in the sand and pretend they don't know how this stuff works. But once you understand it, you can never forget it. And that's also the blessing, because once you understand this, no matter how far afield you might fall, or no matter how much you may find yourself, whatever it is, you can always come back to the New Thought philosophy and find redemption, and find truth, and find that space that says, hey, I do know this, and if I buckle down and get in the practice, I can demonstrate.
And here's the beauty of that. I love it when a plan comes together. This speaks directly to our teachings, right? That says, once you know, you cannot know, right? We've done that in science. We've done this thing with the particles that says, if 2 particles of light are correlated, meaning they have a vibrational connection of some sort, if you move them to opposite ends of the galaxy, it understands what they call a tickle instantaneously, not the speed of light or none of that. There's an instantaneous energy transfer. And because our teaching says that in various traditions, we all came from one intelligent, omnipotent, omniscience, omni. And from that, we all came. But now I know, once 2 lights of particles are correlated, they can never be uncorrelated.
Right.
So now, what you gonna do? You can't say not to say, but at some level, at your DNA cellular level, we know what the truth is. Now we have to remember. We have to remember, and that comes from practice, and that comes from living the way of life, and then it happens. Was it Gandhi that said we have to be the message? It's back to that. We got to be the message.
Right. The message is the most important thing. And it would follow that if I align myself with more particles, if I align and correlate myself with more particles that believe New Thought, that are teaching New Thought, that are living New Thought, that are living peace, and dare I say, living the Gospels, right? Then we create even more of that.
Yeah.
I've been watching The Chosen lately. It's season 5, so my annual remembrance of the Jesus story is getting deep this year on The Chosen. So it's floating into this conversation a little too.
Nice.
Folks, we're going to take another quick break.
And because Jesus is in other traditions. Go get it.
Okay.
Go.
We'll come back to that in a moment.
Lag, I think.
Yep, we got a little bit. We're going to say thank you to a couple more of our sponsors, tell you a little bit more about some of the things going on here around the New Thought Media Network. We'll be right back.
New Thought Media Network proudly presents The Global Heart of Peace's Peace Party. Celebrate the many paths to peace. Explore an exciting life of peace. Embody joyous peace. Come to our weekly Peace Party, Mondays at 5 p.m. Mountain Time. Only on New Thought Media Network. www.ntmedia.org.
Welcome to the Convention of the Americas 2025, Rising Together. Join us for a truly bilingual retreat experience on the shores of the beautiful Lake Chapala, Mexico. July 22nd through July 26th, 2025, at the Hotel Villa Monte Carlo in Jalisco, Mexico. Featuring Reverend Jeffrey Ryan, Dr. Jose de Lira Sosa, Reverend Dr. Kathy Ann Lewis, Reverend Dr. John Waterhouse, and Reverend Dr. David Bruner. Registration is now open, and payment plans are available. Simply visit www.conventionoftheamericas.com. Come be part of a transformative gathering with powerful presentations, workshops, networking time, and just good old relaxing and connecting. Plus, you can learn more about the science of mind and how to live this powerful philosophy in your life. Transform your life at Convention of the Americas 2025, Rising Together.
And we're back with more of New Thought today here on the New Thought Media Network. You know, Revzi, we've been having this great conversation around how we live it, how we make this principle, these practices, this philosophy real in our lives. And one of the things we've been dancing around, but I don't know that we've taken a deep dive into it just yet. And we've got probably just enough time, is how to then go beyond just ourselves and just our immediate family, but really start to bring this as a demonstratable practice into other aspects of our lives, work, out into the world in the organizations, maybe our school systems, maybe our policing systems, maybe all our healthcare systems, all the various pieces in the puzzle of this thing we call life.
Yeah.
How do you see it? How do we take that next great leap?
I mean, I'll just go back to my experience, what I know. We have to start doing communal activities. Now that's a mouthful. I know, for a whole variety of reasons. But we have to start working together and doing the stuff together in person so we can begin to learn to do the dance. Because, you know, we have great opportunities now with the technology to do what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
But for us to really begin to do the dance of the universe, as they say in Taoism, the Wu Wei, when you're going to get into the Wu Wei dancing, you got to be, we got to dance. We can't do the two-step in if you're in Chicago and I'm in Colorado. We got to get together. And so now we learn when the turns, and when I learn the idiosyncrasies of my dance partner. And that's what we're doing with the universe. Universe is our dance partner. We have to get to know the rhythm of it and know when it does X, I know immediately why it's going to happen, because that's the idiosyncrasy of that thing.
Right.
And it's, you know, that's why they say it's hard, but it's complex. So you need the intellectual piece to begin to visualize it, but at some point you got to whittle it down to make it happen in some physical experience.
Right. Communal activities. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I want to say here that, and it's not something that we have to go start. I often hear people that I don't know about, I don't want to get involved. There are more than enough opportunities out there already to become part of a volunteer outreach organization. Doesn't mean you have to believe everything they maybe believe. And if it's a faith-based organization, what better place to be a demonstration of what we believe than in the midst of whatever type of organization is already doing good work. If they're already doing good work, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We don't have to start a new soup kitchen or a new food pantry. We don't have to find a place to, we can become active and plug into what's already there. I think honestly, we would do more good having new thoughters in 1,000 different organizations than having 1,000 new thoughters just working on one.
Yeah.
Become part of the world.
That's it, right? We have to work together. I mean, I look at nature as the ultimate scripture. That's why you keep hearing me say the 14 billion year old scripture. And when we look at nature, there's certain things that just work. Now, the timing may be off a little bit because of other circumstances. That thing does not happen in isolation. There are other things going on around it. But within a certain proximity, within a certain range, we know the moon is going to rise, the sun is going to rise, and they're going to set, and how the body works, and all these things. That is an example. It happens everywhere. We have to learn to get in rhythm with that. When we see great people do great things, they're doing it with ease. Everybody has seen somebody, whether they are so-called big or small, man. I don't know what they got going on, but when they do that, whatever that is, they got it. They feel that.
Yep. Exactly. Well, there it is, folks. Normally we do final thoughts on this program, but I'm not sure we're going to have it anymore. Actually, that's not true. I'm going to start with a final thought, and we'll kick it over to my brother Rev Z, because you said something, I said something, and the big note I wrote down on my paper today is get involved. Get involved.
Yeah.
I can't tell you what that's going to look like. I can't tell you what's going to be right for you. I can't tell you what to align yourself with or not. But what I do know is that if you as an individual get involved, whether it's your home church, whether it's a food bank, whether it's a community project, whether it's just something you do on your own, get involved. Because it is the energetic vibration, the consciousness that you bring that is imperative. There's no job too big or small. There's no job. It doesn't matter whether you're working directly with people that are marginalized, you're just working in an office, making sure the people that are can get the work done. Whatever it is that you can do to be involved, go do that and be involved.
Yeah. And mine would be just whatever you do, when you come in there to do it, bring the frequency, bring the energy of supreme love, because that vibration can heal things. And when you do that, it works.
And so it is. Folks, thanks for joining us here today. This has been New Thought Today for the 1st of July. Thank you so much for being with me. Let's take a quick look, Z. I want to double check because I do believe we have ourselves a guest next week. Back to the guest. Yes, Reverend Dr. Jerry Troyer, the president of the affiliated New Thought Network, is going to be with us next Tuesday. So join us for that same time, 2 p.m. Mountain Time. And again, please feel free to go back and check through our archives on YouTube. You'll find all these past episodes that we've been talking about. A great lineup of thought leaders that have been on the program this year. And the invitation for you, if you're watching, is to join us with that. Send in a name or tell us you want to join us on air. We'd be happy to have you. All righty. I think that's about it. Until next time, we'll wish you peace and richest blessings. Bye now.